Hello and welcome to another episode of Maths with Mrs. Banks, where we make maths fun and easy to learn. And in this video, we're going to look at paper 1 for grade 9 mathematics. Then the paper comes from the November 2020 of the GAUTEng Department of Education. And let's start. Section 8, this is a multiple choice question. Let's look at question 1. It says 4 options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Circle the letter next to the correct answer in the question paper. 1.1 goes, the given table shows the relationship between x and y. Here is the table. Now complete. The row describing the relationship between x and y is, and here are the options A, B, C, and D. Now here is how to answer this question. There are two methods. The first method is the number pattern method, and the second method is the functions method. Let's start with the number patterns method. With the number pattern method is that you list the 0, 1, 2, and 3. The first three, any three of the numbers together. Okay, let's list them. We're gonna list -1, 1, and 3, and then see if there is any pattern. -1, 1, and 3, and see the type of pattern it is. Now let's first check if it's a linear pattern or an arithmetic pattern, like some say. How do we figure that one out? We find the constant difference between the term in front and the term behind it. So we go term that is in front minus the one that is behind it. So 1 minus -1. If you take your calculator and go 1 minus -1, it will give you 1 plus 1, which is 2. So that is the first difference between these two. Now let's find the difference between these two. 3 minus 1, that gives us 2. So now you can see that this is a linear pattern or an arithmetic. It's up to you which name you want to use. It's a linear pattern, and a linear pattern has got a constant difference. So this is a linear pattern with the first term A equals to -1. It's 1 in this case. Sorry, it's 1. Well, the first term is 1. Here is how I know this is the first term. It's term number 1. It is 1. So that is term 1, which is 1, and the constant difference, which is 2 in this case. Here is the constant difference. Now, here is the general term for the arithmetic or linear. It goes A plus in bracket n minus 1 D. So what do? We substitute A and D. A is 1, so we substitute 1 where there is A, and minus 1 times where there is D, we put 2. Now we expand, and that gives us what? 1 plus n times 2, that is 2n. -1 times 2, that is -2 minus 2. So now we add like terms. So we start with the one that has a variable, so that's 2n. 1 minus 2, that is -1. So therefore the general term is 2n minus 1. Automatically that means that it will be y equals to 2x minus 1. But let me show you the equation method. Here is the equation method. So with the equation method, remember the standard equation for a straight line, which this looks like. All of them are straight lines. We just need to figure out which one is the correct equation for that straight line. Now C is the y-intercept. In order to find the y-intercept, all right, C equals to the y-intercept, and in order to find the y-intercept, we need to find a point where x is equals to 0. When x equals to 0, that point is -1, the y. Therefore C equals to -1. All right, good. Now let's figure out what the gradient is, which is m. Now to figure out what the gradient is, here is the equation for the gradient. It goes y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, so we choose any 2 points. We're going to choose these two. We choose any 2 points, and then those 2 points will give us whatever gradient that we're looking for. So now this will be x1 and that will be x2, and this one will be our y1, and that one will be our y2. So we go y2 minus y1, so that will be 3 minus 1, 3 minus 1 over x2 minus x1, so that will be 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1, which is equals to 3 minus 1, that is 2, and then 2 minus 1 is 1. So the gradient is 2, meaning that therefore the equation is y equals to m is 2, so that will be y equals to 2x plus, and then c is minus 1, so that will be 2x minus 1, which is very similar to the answer that we got for the general term when we used the number pattern method. So the answer is 2x minus 1, and that is C, which is the correct answer. Next, 1.2. Which one of the following statements is true? If two lines are perpendicular, this is what the lines do. They cross each other off at 90-degree angles. They cross each other off like this. This is what, and this is 90 degrees. This is what perpendicular lines do. Now, the other type of lines we can have is lines that we call parallel. Here is what parallel lines look like. Now, parallel lines have got equal gradients. That's what parallel lines have. They have equal gradients. These are parallel. And then we have perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines have got gradients that have got a product of what? Okay, the product of the gradients is -1. So now, which one is the correct answer? Let's go. The product of the gradient is -1. So A is the correct answer and everything else is false. Now let's move on to the next question. Now in the next question we'll say, complete the flow diagram by using the given rule. Okay, the rule says, okay, you've got the input values and then you've got y equals to minus 3x plus 2 equals 2, you get the output values. Now if the input is 8, what you do is you simply substitute 8 where you have x. Now take out a calculator and you go minus 3 times 8, negative 3, open bracket, 8 close bracket, plus 2, and equals to, that gives us negative 22. So meaning that our answer here is one that has got negative 22, and that answer is option A. Next question goes, complete the degree. Complete. The degree of an expression is given by the what? Okay, the degree of an expression is given by the exponent. All right, how do we know the degree of this expression is 3x? The degree of the expression is this number at the top, the highest one. All right, so it will be the exponent. So that is the correct answer. 1.5. Now they say complete. The point of intersection of the two graphs is, okay, let's work. The point of intersection is where they meet. So this is where they meet. This is where they meet. Now, to figure out the point, we must first figure out the x-coordinate, which is the number that tells us how far to the left or to the right it is, and then the y-coordinate, which tells us how far top to bottom it is. So on the left to right, it's on -1. You can see that. So the x-coordinate is -1, and the y-coordinate, we're looking at how far it is top to bottom, and it directly is at -2. So the point is -1, -2, and the correct answer is D. And that is the end of the multiple choice question. Now let's come to section 2. Now section B then tells us we need to complete, you need to write down. Now 2.1 says expand. This is the product of two binomials. We use the method called FOIL to complete this. That means first, outer, inner, last. What does it mean? It means first, that's F, outer, inner, last. That's what it means. Now let's multiply using this pattern. That will be equal to, okay, that will be equal to x times x, which is x squared, x times 3, that will be plus 3x, and then the inner will be negative 5 times x, that will give us minus 5x, and then the last will be negative 5 times positive 3. Negative times positive is negative. 5 times 3 will be 15. So the answer will be negative 15. And that is how you find the answer to that. Now we're not finished. What we need to do now is we add like terms. Like terms are those that look alike in many ways. Okay, this one, if we call this a horse, then we will have to call this a donkey, right? And then this will be another donkey, and this will be a goat. So we've got one horse, two donkeys, and one goat. So we must add the two donkeys together so that they give us one number. All right, so that will be x squared. Now the two donkeys, 3 donkeys minus 5 donkeys will give us 3 minus 5 is equal to negative 2. If you use a calculator, that's what you will get. So that will be negative 2x minus 50. And that is how you answer this question. Now simplify. That is the question. So what you do here is you factorize. Step number 1. At the top, we've got a common factor. A, B, and A have a common factor, and that common factor is A. So we take it out. That leaves us with B plus 1 all over AB. Now notice that the A's cancel out. And that leaves us with what? B plus 1 at the top over B at the bottom. And that is your answer. Next question, factorize. Step number 1, to see if you can take out a common factor. This looks like a difference of 2 squares, but you can't see it right now. Let's take out a common factor first. What is the common factor between the numbers? That is 2. That is common factor. Now that leaves us with 4k squared minus 1. Now 4k squared minus 1 is a difference of 2 squares. Difference of 2 squares. 4k squared is the square of 2k, and 1 is the square of 1, because 2k all squared will give us 4k squared, and 1 squared will give us 1. Difference because you've got a minus in between separating them. So we leave the 2 outside exactly the way it was. Now when we factorize the difference of 2 squares, we must have a set of 2 brackets. 2 pairs of brackets. Now in the first of each term of the brackets, we must give the square root of the first square. The square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of k squared is k. So the square root of 4k squared is 2k. So we also do the same thing here now. The square root of 1 is 1. So we write 1 and 1 in the last terms of each bracket. Now here is where the kicker comes in. One must have a plus and the other one must have a minus. That's how you sort out the difference of 2 squares. So one will have a plus and the other one will have a minus. And that's how you factorize that. Next, yeah, this is a trinomial. So with a trinomial where the first term is x squared, you must have two sets of brackets, and in each set you will have x and x. Why? Because when you multiply them together, they will give you x squared. What is factorization? Factorization is the reverse of multiplication. So whatever it is you do in reverse, that's what you do when you factorize. Now, step number 2, now you find the factors of 12. All factor pairs of 12, the last term. So the first factor pair will be 12 times 1. The next one will be, you take a calculator and you get 12 divided by 2. So you can see which number must be multiplied by 2 to give us 6. To give us 12. And then you go next, 12 divided by 3. So the number that we need to multiply by 3 in order to get 12 is. So what are these? These are all pairs of factors that will multiply together give you 12. Now, why am I listing them like this? So that I do not miss the one that is actually appropriate, that will give us 7 in the middle. How do we figure it out? Easy peasy. So you go, okay, let's see. These two can either give us 12 plus 1, which is 13, or 12 minus 1, which is 11. And these two can either give us 6 plus 2, which is 8, or 6 minus 2, which is 4. And the last pair will give us 4 plus 3, which is 7, or will give us 4 minus 3, which is 1. Now, the factor pair that gives us the middle term, which is 7, is the last one. This is the factor pair that gives us what we're looking for. So that is the factor pair that we must use. This is the factor pair that we use. So we must have 4 and 3 as our factors. Does not matter where you put your 4. Does not matter where you put your 3. You can put your 4 here and your 3 there. It does not matter. Now, here is where we need to be very careful. Now, the last term, to get the last term, we must either multiply two positive together or multiply two negatives together, which is cool. Now, if we multiply two positives together, that means we'll have a positive and a positive, so meaning that it will give us plus 3 plus 4, which is plus 7. So we need to have negatives. Why? Because when we multiply them together, they will give us a positive 12. And when we add them together, they will give us negative 7. Just take your calculator and test it. You will see negative 3 plus negative 4, or negative 3 minus 4, that will give us negative 7, which is the correct answer that we are looking for. Next question, we are supposed to factorize. Okay, let's factorize. Here is how we factorize. Step number 1, all right, we find a common factor. Common factor, that will be x, and that leaves you with x plus 2. That's what we have at the top. At the bottom, we have a difference of two squares, x squared minus 4. X squared is the square of x, and 4 is the square of 2. So that gives us two sets of brackets like we did with the last one. So in the first terms of each bracket, we'll put the square root of x squared, which is x. So it will be x and then another x, and then another x. Now in the second terms of each bracket, we'll put the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2. And so we put 2 and 2. In one bracket, like with the last one, we will have a plus, and in the other bracket, we will have a minus. And that's how you factorize that. Now, but we're not finished here. Notice that x plus 2 and x plus 2 can cancel out. So we cancel them out, and that leaves us with x at the top over x minus 2 at the bottom. And that's how we simplify it. Now let's move on. Next, question 3 says solve for the unknown. Now we're supposed to solve for x. How do we do it? So what we do here is we take everything That is x to the left hand side. So let's take everything. But remember, when you take anything, all right, from one side to the other side, it must change a sign. So if it was positive on the one side, it becomes negative on the other side. And if it was negative on the one side, it becomes positive on the other side. And then we take the 6 to the right hand side. So we take the 6 and then take the x to the left hand side. All right, now that will be minus 4 plus 6 because it was minus before we removed it from the other side. So that will be 3x minus x. That gives us 2x, and that is equals to minus 4 plus 6 is the same as 6 minus 4, and that will give us 2. Now we've got 2x equals to 2. We're looking for x. So what do? We divide both sides by 2 so that we can get rid of that. Alright, now the 2's cancel out. Now 2 over 2 will give us 1. So therefore, x equals to 1 is the answer. Now 3 to the power of a equals to 81. What you do with this exponential equation is you express 81, right? 81 is a power with the base 3. If you're not sure what to do, you go to your calculator and you go 81 equals to, and then shift and then fact that button with the many dots just below the square root sign, and that will give you 3 to the power of 4. Now you've got powers of the same base. They have the same base and the base is 3. They're equal. Therefore, it means that we can equate the exponent. Therefore, a equals to 4. That's how you solve that. Now, with this one, we already have the a times b equals to 0 situation. So what we do is we equate each of the factors to 0. So therefore, x minus 1 equals to 0, or x plus 3 equal to 0. That's your first step. Now what you do is now you solve these linear equations. Therefore, you just take 1 to the other side. So that becomes, you just take this to the right hand side, it becomes plus 1, or x equals to negative 3. That's what it changes to when you take it to the other side. Now 3.1.4. Now notice that you've got a difference of 2 squares here. So what you do on the left hand side is you first factorize that difference of 2 squares. And how do you do that? You go 2 pairs of brackets. That equals to 0. Alright. Now you go, what is the square root of 4m squared? The square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of m squared is m. So that will be 2m. That's what you write on the first paragraph. Now, what is the square root of 64? Take out your calculator and you go square root of 64, and it will give you 8. So in the second terms of each bracket, you put 8. And with the difference of 2 squares, you know that in one you put a minus, and in the other you put a plus. And that's how you go. Now that you've got the a times b situation equals to 0, so now you equate each one of these to 0. 2m plus 8 equals to 0, or 2m minus 8 equals to 0. Now what you do is you take 2m equals to negative 8, or 2m equals to positive 8, and now you divide both sides by 2 to get rid of the equals to negative 8 over 2, or same story over here, 2m over 2 equals to 8 over 2, and that gives us what? Okay, so that gives us, so we don't have enough space there, therefore we're taking this here. Therefore, m equals to, because the 2's cancel out, These twos will cancel out. Same story as here. So that will be m equals to minus 8 over 2 is equals to negative 4. Therefore, m equals to negative 4. That is the first one. Or m equals to positive 4. 8 over 2 is positive 4. So your answer is m equals to negative 4 or m equals to 4. Now 3.2 goes, Cindy bought 4 tins of tennis balls and emptied them into a basket. The basket has 7 balls already. Altogether, she now has 27 balls. How many balls were in each tin? So Cindy bought 4 tins of tennis balls and emptied them into a basket. The basket had 7 balls already. So you've got 4 tins of tennis balls, right, into a basket. Altogether, she now has 20. The basket had 7 balls already. So how many balls were in each tin? All right, so you've got, let the number of balls be x. Let the number of balls be x. Let the number of tennis balls be x. The number of tennis balls, let that be x. So meaning that in each tin you have 4 times x balls, because you've got 4. Therefore, all right, those 4 tins with x number of balls in each tin plus the 7 that were already in the basket, right, all together added to 27. Now what you do is you solve for this x. Therefore 4x equals to 27 minus 7. Therefore 4x equals to 20. Now you divide both sides by 4. 4x over 4 equals to 20 over 4. Therefore, x equals 2, because the 4's cancel out. Alright, now, therefore, on the left-hand side, you will 20 divided by 4, that is 5. And your answer is x equals to 5. Next, in this question number 4, we've got statistics, fridge sales for 2020. Number of fridges, and then you've got the month of the year from January all the way to June. Alright, the graph above shows the number of fridges sold by a shop between January and June 2020. Refer to the graph to answer the questions. How many fridges were sold in February? So what you do is you go to February, here is February, and then you look up there. Here, you look up there. Take a ruler to help you figure it out. Here, this is where it touches the graph. And now what you do is you take your finger to the left hand side to see the number of fridges. So that will be 30. So in February, 30 fridges were sold. Now, between which months did the sale of fridges decrease? This is where we have a line going down. We've got 2 spots. Here is the first one, and the other one is over there. So they say between which months did the sale of fridges decrease? It was between February and March, and between April and May. February and March. February, March, and April and May. April and May. And that's how you answer that question. Now for the last page. How many more fridges were sold in May than in January? Okay, let's see how many were sold in January. In May, it was 30 and in January it was 25. Okay, 25 May and 25 January, and in May it was 30. So that will be 30 minus 25. 30 minus 25, and that gives us 5 fridges. Right, May sold the most fridges. Let's see. Which one sold the most fridges? May sold more fridges, 30, than so 5 more. And the question is, how many more fridges were sold in May than in January? It's 5 fridges. Is the data shown in the graph discrete or continuous? Explain your answer. Now, there is no way it can be continuous. It has to be discrete because you can count the number of fridges one by one. So that's why it is a discrete number. However, the way the graph has been drawn, it is a discrete because it's got dot, 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 dot. The lines sort of like connect because, right, the data shown in the graph is discrete. Given the equation y equals to x plus 3, complete the table. Here is the table that we're completing. So what you do is you just substitute for each one. So let's substitute for 0. Y equals to, when x equals to 0, that will be 0 plus 3, which is 3. Okay. Same story for 1. So that will be y equals to 1 plus 3, and that gives us 4. Next, when x equals to 2, y equals to 2 plus 3, which is 5. There we go. Next, when x equals to negative 1, we've got y equals to negative 1 plus 3, and that is 3 minus 1, which gives us 2. And when x equals to negative 2, y equals to negative 2 plus 3, that is 3 minus 2, and that is equal to 1. That's what we have there. Now, use the points from the table in 4.2.1 to draw a graph on the Cartesian plane provided. So what we do is we plot the points first. So the first point we're going to plot is the 0, negative 3. So that's 0, negative 3. Or is it 0, 3? 0, 3, sorry. That is 0, 3. And that's how you plot the point. So the first point will be this point, and the next point will be 1, 4. So that is 1, 4. And the third point is 2, 5. So there 2, and then all the way to 5, which is there. Now, negative 1, 2. Here is negative 1, 2. So let's plot that point. And then the next point is negative 2, 1. Negative 2, 1. There is the point. And now we join the points together. Here is how we join the points. Okay, now the points are joined together, and that is how you draw the line. You can even draw arrows if you want there, and that is how you draw that. And that is the end of the paper. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video. Bye bye.